Welcome to the Parkinson's podcast Unfiltered with hosts Heather Kennedy and Kat Hill, brought to you by the Davis Phinney Foundation. Heather is originally from New York and was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's in 2011 when she was 40. Kat is originally from a small town in California and was diagnosed in 2015 when she was 48. Heather and Kat have been friends since they met at the World Parkinson Congress in 2019. In each episode, Heather and Kat dive deep into the raw emotions and realities of life with Parkinson's. In this episode, Heather and Kat are joined by special guest Jennifer Sullivan, who is the creator of the Wiggles Project and was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2013 when she was 38 years old.
Heather.
Yeah, there's someone here.
There's someone here with us today. How exciting.
And it's a very special guest. Our first guest of the podcast.
We are so honored to have Jennifer Sullivan here with us today. How lucky are we, Heather?
It's like having the love doctor in the house. Let's talk. Let's get a little background on you.
Yeah.
Tell us something about you.
Yeah, why don't you share your Parkinson's journey a little bit? I know you and Heather have had more time to connect, and I'm learning more about you by the minute. So bring me up to speed, Jennifer.
Well, first, I got to say thank you so much for having me and inviting me to be here with you. I was diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's when I was 38 years old. So that was 2013. And I owned a restaurant, a pub in Mendocino County. It was 1 year into that journey. So that was some news I definitely didn't want to hear. And I got a therapist to help me kind of process, get me grounded on like, what would this mean for me? And how could I handle that news? I mean, I was not really expecting it. I kind of suspected it, but just couldn't really believe it. So I had the pub I opened it in 2012. I closed it in 2018. It had nothing to do really with Parkinson's. I mean, maybe a little bit, but a semi truck actually crashed into the building. So then I was like, okay, well, what else can I do? And then, COVID hit. And then I love to play cards and I love to play poker. And so one day I'm at this local casino, which I love. And I was kicking butt. I was playing this cash game, had just won this big pot. And then security starts harassing me because I've got the Wiggles. I'm dyskinetic, and they literally throw me out. And that was the inspiration for a YouTube channel that I started. Oh, it was awful. It was so awful. I don't know if you've ever seen the video, but I recorded like a little bit of me in tears. I mean, I was like pretty hysterical, which is unusual for me because they were like filming me in my car, but I couldn't drive because I couldn't leave. It was just like, but that was the inspiration. My therapist, again, she knows me really well. And she's like, okay, how can we make this? Do you want to make this negative experience into something positive? And I'm like, yes. Oh my God. Yes, I totally do. So I started the Parkinson's Wiggles Project on YouTube. And so I'm just kind of sharing my Parkinson's journey on that channel. And yeah, so that's kind of the short story, I guess. So here I am with you.
And for those of us that came after you with the diagnosis of young onset Parkinson's, it was a blessing to find what you were putting out there. So I really, hats off to both you and my friend Heather here too. Both of you have really been leaders in that area. And you've been leaders about talking about other things too, Jennifer. Some of the real human sides of Parkinson's disease, including how to be a sexual human going through this process of Parkinson's disease. And so I think I really applaud your efforts, your candor, your interest, and the way that you put content out there. I think it's really exciting and positive for women, for all women, but particularly those of us living with this challenge. So thanks for coming. So empowering. Yeah. Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sex, baby. Let's talk about
Yeah. Heather and I have been talking a lot about this, off the pod. And so we want to talk more about it on the pod. And I think, like everything else, talking about sex, everybody always thinks about the act itself. And that's just such a minimal part of the whole experience. And I liked your last, is it Substack? Am I saying that right? About flirting and the power of that. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I was very intrigued.
Yes, I'd love to share that. And you're right, like flirting is so powerful, and it could be intimidating if, I know people who are like, oh my God, I don't know how to flirt at all. And I'm like, I do think you do. You just kind of got to get a little practice, but it can communicate so much. I mean, even with friends, I include friends in that, because it's like, it can be playful, it can be sensual. There's so much that can be communicated with it. You don't necessarily have to have the end result in mind. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm trying to get you into bed. If you say to somebody like, hey, I think you're cute, or I think you're looking good right now, so I want to blow you like this little kiss, or say something cute or funny, or, whatever it is, however it is that you flirt in. And you can make someone stay and make them feel good. And, hopefully it kind of goes both ways, and it's reciprocated. Even if not, it's like, it also, I think, kind of helps us build up our confidence a little bit too. Like, yeah, I still got it.
And it also, go ahead, Heather. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that is a question we have about a lot of things in terms of our capabilities as this disease progresses.
And how do we, I've been using this word a lot, but how do we curate that part of ourselves? How do we give ourselves permission? And I think partly we can do that by having talks like this, that having intimate relationships isn't just about having sex with people. I find talking with other women to be very intimate. I find hugging my friends or holding their hands an act of intimacy and touch, and that can be flirty too. Hey girl, you're looking so good in those glasses, Heather, just for example.
I'm the dirty librarian look today.
Yes.
Jennifer, take me through what prompted you to talk more publicly about the sensuality, sexuality. Tell me how you got from the Wiggles to the sensual Wiggles. How's that?
I don't know if you saw, one of my titles on my Substack is, Can I Be Sexy Crawling to the Toilet with Dystonia? I have this picture of like cat women, doing like a sensual crawl, and I'm trying to really push the boundaries there, because it's not easy.
And how do we stay human in the moment when we're having dystonia and our bodies aren't working the way that we're used to them working? And we have a choice in how we tackle that, right? We can cry and rage and be sad. And certainly I would conjecture you've had moments such as those. But
Oh, absolutely.
how do you make the shift?
That's the $1 million and the beautiful question, because I feel like we do have to give ourselves permission to cry and to feel the way that we do feel when we're not feeling it. But then at the same time, I think we can't, at least for myself, I don't want to exist in that realm. I want to try to find some equilibrium. And so that's where that, like, how can I be playful or fun with it? And, this is, hopefully my husband, I think, will be okay with me telling this story. So I told him about the dream. Like, he knows how my mind operates, and he knows me sometimes better than I think I know myself. But I told him about my dream, the idea about writing like little, like how to flirt, piece, like short little, blurbs from my essay. And so I kind of like gave him some like my little flirting like ideas and what I could write about. And what's so funny is I wasn't moving that well. It was like the morning. I had smudged eyeliner. I had like a hoodie on, and I had just had a piece of pizza. And so he's about to leave, and he says, babe, he goes, you've got crumbs. After I tell him like how to flirt and stuff like that, he goes, babe, you've got crumbs on your sweatshirt. And I just started laughing. I'm like, that's reality right there. It's so interesting. And then of course, he told me he loved me and gave me a kiss goodbye. And like, it was wonderful. But then it's just like, man, like, because he could have came over, I told him about the little blow, like the blowing on the neck. You know what I mean? And it's like, there's your doorway. So it's like, it's kind of, there's like this ideal and kind of like these hopes, I think, that we all have. But then too, it's like, and it's not that they're unattainable, but just not at all times, and kind of recognizing that, but still being able to have them because those moments will happen, if that makes sense.
It does make sense to me. And having been married 34 years, that's so weird to say even. I think it takes intention to keep flirting and those fun moments, the playful moments. It takes energy to do that when you can get lost in the mundane, right? In the, are the dishes done? Is the mortgage paid? Are there kids at home? Oh, a dump truck ran into my car, or, a semi ran into my bar. We could do a whole gig on that, actually. That sounds like a poem.
Yeah, this is not what we'd expected.
Right. Or
the next question.
Yeah. At 38, getting diagnosed with young onset Parkinson's.
Right. Like none of this was expected. A truck rolls into your bar. I mean, we won't even talk about the repercussions of that financially and otherwise. Now, Parkinson's just destroys our bodies in so many ways. But here's the big question. The element of surprise becomes a little harder when I'm not moving. You mentioned crawling to the bathroom.
Yeah.
How can we flip that? How can we come back in and have the sense of mystery again if we've just soiled our pants, How can we get that?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
It's so real. Some of the stuff that I was reading, I came across this woman named Betty Dodson, who, she had she said this is something she wrote, it was in one of her books, and the title of the book was Liberating Masturbation, I think was the title. And in it, like this comment really blew me away. The quote was that she said, our primary sex life is with ourselves. Anyone else that we bring into it is how we socialize our sex life. And I was so blown away by that, because I was like, okay, it has to begin within myself and with me. And like, there's still a lot of ways that when I'm alone, or even when, I'm with my husband, like that I can still, that I can still take care of myself in ways that I can, or that I'm comfortable with, that he's comfortable with, and we can have those discussions. But I feel like what I just loved about that is it really begins with us and kind of what are our goals, because like, I know that some people are just not interested in it anymore. I still am, and like, that is a battle, like part of me is almost like, man, I wish this need wasn't there, but it is, like we were talking about touch, being held. I mean, like I long for those things,
I would really like to repeat what you just said. Our sexuality is ours, meaning whatever I see in someone else is some sort of a projection in a way, because I am starting here in my mind, in my heart, in my body. And the level of intensity is something that we can dial up or turn down with any partner if there are healthy boundaries, in my opinion. Once there are boundaries, then all bets are off and you can have more fun, which is why I'm going to add in the discussion of sexuality being conscious choice. Any thoughts about that?
I think it's a complex question, because I don't know if we're talking about sexual orientation or if we're talking about the act of sex itself. It's more a piece of who we are as humans. And, Heather, you and I have talked a lot about the storylining that we do. Boy, do women do this hugely around their sexuality and their expectations that we've got to look like the Vogue model,
And porn comes down to porn.
Right, or porn. There's all these expectations of what we think others want, and even what we have learned about. And so I think it's no wonder that it's a little mysterious to a lot of us. And so I love that we're having conversations about it, and that sexual health isn't about, again, sex. It's about a piece of ourselves that we can keep healthy. I loved what you said, Jennifer, about being comfortable to tend to myself. For me, something very sexual or very sensual is, filling up a bathtub and lighting some candles. Now, I can't smell the candles so much anymore, so it doesn't matter. I'm kind of a cheap date that way now. Turning on some music, and maybe turning lights off and really allowing myself to enjoy the heat of that bathtub and then putting some good lotion on my skin afterwards. That's a really sensual slash sexual experience.
Stop. I'm getting off
Yes,
talking about it.
yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
And I know how hard it is. I mean, my goodness, all of us, I know men too. Men have expectations that society place on them that they're supposed to look, like The Rock or, whoever. But men have it too. And it's like, how do we embrace a body that doesn't always, do what we want it to do? That is, I think, the challenge. And I feel like too, when you do those things like a bath and those kinds of treats that make you feel good, it's like a great place to start.
And then it gets you back into your body, and out of your mind set, whatever that is. I often joke that when I came home from work, I had to go down a hallway of sorts before I switched to the sensual world. We spend all day fighting it out there in the capitalist society, and it's just another part of your brain. Most of us aren't working in the sensual industry. So, we got to get down in our bodies, which is hard to do when your body hurts.
And if our bodies don't respond the way they used to, also, I know that my husband and I have had several good laughs about what my hands or my neck or my legs do or
Yeah.
don't do.
Yeah.
Like, isn't this sexy the way these toes are moving right now? If I'm screaming, it's because I think you're sexy and my feet really hurt.
This is a great example. People are welcome to message me at Jennifer@thewigglesproject.com. I can't answer every question, but there's one woman who wrote in a comment about how when she orgasmed, about how dyskinetic and kind of crazy her body got.
Yes.
And how uncomfortable it made her. And I realized too, you're talking about your toes. We are so hard on ourselves. And it's just honey, if you need to flail, flail.
Mhm.
Go crazy. If that is how you're going to get there, or if that's what your body wants to do, just kind of, I guess, go with it.
Yes, a confident lover.
Yesterday, I had the opportunity in preparation for this. I was Googling lots of different things and I came across a reel talking about the 7 questions you should ask your partner before it's too late. And I asked my husband a couple of questions, and it was a beautiful lead in. It was about what is the best way for me to show appreciation to you. That
Well, I
was
love it.
really insightful to have that, to talk about that. We are very communicative to one another. We're very affectionate and we communicate well, but it's a question I had never asked him. And he came and I was having sort of an off time. And so I asked him if he'd come snuggle me. I need some snuggles.
Oh,
I
Now,
love that.
we're in
Oh.
our Airstream and we're in these extra narrow twin beds. I am trying to aim for more moments around talking about our love story because I think that's important. And I think as we're moving into this next realm of Parkinson's, that's an intimate process. And that's beautiful. And that's enough too. Not all the time,
Yeah.
but for yesterday, 5 minutes midday, it was beautiful.
I love that.
Thank
Esther
you.
Esther Perel, I love Esther Perel, and she's there's one thing I watched where she was talking about how she recommends that every couple at the end of every year kind of take an assessment, the past year together. What would they like in the next coming year? Are there things that that they felt might have been missing, or something new conceptually that they came across and maybe they'd like to try, or just kind of doing a check-in.
Mm.
And it could be on either traveling or on goals with intimacy, whatever it is, but just kind of doing a little annual check-in with each other. Because like you said too, it's just your husband might not be there, or the wife might not be there, and it's not anything personal.
Can you be more specific about trying something new regarding sex?
Or intimacy.
I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah. You know, it's like, and this is the thing too, like, I think one of the reasons that I really wanted to go here is because a lot of people, it's hard for
Right.
many people, you know, even, you know, I think the most confident and the most communicative, you know, sometimes it's just hard to, you know, come out and say like, hey, you might not be in the mood. Maybe if you are later, you know, like we don't actually need to have sex. You can maybe just like lie next to me and kiss me while like, you know, I tend to myself.
Or
you
do
know,
the
and-
dishes for me. Or clean the
Yeah.
house. Or play.
Or do the dishes. Yeah,
Joking.
Yeah.
exactly. Do the dishes naked, would you please?
Yes.
Yeah. In the next 15 minutes would be optimal, but later today would also work.
Right?
You're like, I've always wanted to, you know, do the little French maid thing.
Yeah. Let's play prisoner.
What do you think?
Well, role playing, right? That's a great
Yeah.
way to explore avenues, you know, in a consensual adult relationship, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think the longer I'm with my partner, the more comfortable we feel exploring different avenues and
Boundaries.
boundaries.
Who would have thunk, right? To get wild, you have to have boundaries.
To do anything in a healthy way, I think boundaries are helpful.
And
Not
trust.
just sex. Trust.
And you said, Jen, you said something in the beginning of this that he might know you better than you know yourself. To have that with a partner is so huge. Like to have somebody who sees you, you don't have to explain yourself. You have to say, I know this is weird, but you don't even have to say any of that because on your vibe. Back to Esther Perel. Just want to add a couple of quick things. Love enjoys knowing everything about you. Desire needs mystery, which leads me back to the bathroom incident. It's hard to keep the mystery when I'm asking them for help, whoever my partner is or the person staying with me or sharing my bed. Like, could you help me roll over, honey? Like, could you help me get my shirt off? And you were just saying how to make that sort of sensual and fun. Can you expand on that too, Jen?
Well, you know, the question is that can you? I mean, so like if you indeed even feel it yourself, like let's say your man is helping you like get dressed or your wife or your spouse, whoever's helping you get dressed, and you feel like the sexiest human being on the planet at that moment, for whatever reason, you know, you're out there, you're like, woohoo, this is hot. But you might feel that way, but it doesn't mean that your spouse might feel or see you in the same way. Our expectations that we have on each other in relationships to expect, you know, that the fire is going to be that all intense, like raging, passionate thing that it was years ago, you know, while you're paying the bills and doing all of the things, you know, that you're doing, it's a little,
Kids, talk about ruining spontaneity. No offense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it can become more complex as partners move into the role a little bit of care partners. I think that it's really important to be intentional about setting aside time to be a couple. You know, that takes communication. It takes also being in the moment, a time where I don't need help, you know, getting myself put back together.
Yeah.
So how can we be intentional about that and set that time aside? And I don't know that I have answers for it. I probably have more questions than answers, but I think talking about it. And Heather, how do you handle that dating? I'd love to hear in new relationships. And Jennifer, your experience, you know, dating. Were you single some while having PD? It sounds like part of your journey was yeah.
Yeah, I was single when I was diagnosed. And so this is another reason that my therapist was really good for me because, you know, back then my mind would instantly go to the gutter. It would assume the worst. It was like, okay, you've got Parkinson's, my life is over. You weren't able to find a long lasting relationship when you were healthy. How on earth are you going to find one now that you've got Parkinson's? You know, it was just,
Mhm.
I actually met him right around the time that I was trying to find out what was going on with me.
And you've spoken about him
Yes.
so wonderfully in private I must say, there's a lot of love there.
I got really lucky.
Yeah.
I'm like, anyone who can handle
Yeah. Can
me,
you handle all
like,
this?
wow.
Back to the dating thing. Dating's hard. Don't you agree, John?
Even without Parkinson's, the dating world is kind of a nightmare.
It is awful. This thing called like ghosting, that ain't new.
Uh,
Before we would just say, where the hell did you go?
Mhm.
Yeah, the internet to check on C. Where are you? We would just be like, poof, they disappeared. They fell in a hole. Now we can go check. Oh, he's at a party with another girl, or she's doing this with another. I have been dating women for quite some time. And I will say that people are very interested in that. Almost like they tokenize it a bit, or like it's fetishized or something. Very weird.
Mhm.
But I don't think it matters. Does it matter? Hardware doesn't matter at all. In my opinion, I fall in love with a person. I'm not just saying that to be like special or whatever. I mean it. Like I fall in love with your heart, your mind,
Mhm.
some little gesture. I mean, I fall in love all the time. Walking on the street, I fall in love. Even with a dog and a baby, like I just fall in love. A tree. I sound a little kooky, but it's true.
Squirrel.
Oh yeah, that is especially
I
true.
love you, girl.
So when you're in love, it's a different experience than loving, like you were saying. The mature relationship has as the boundaries get better and things. I just feel like if you know somebody, sex is more fun.
I would really like to echo what Jennifer said. Sometimes it is the passionate wildfire that burns strong and fast and quickly, and how lovely. And that still happens some, even after 34 years. But there is a tenderness and a richness to the small fires, right? The glimmers,
The cuddling, snuggling.
the snuggling, I snuggle
The candlelight, the candle.
yes. The conversation, it's rich and it's wonderful and
Safe.
it's safe and it needs to be safe in order for me to feel comfortable. I still have some of those Puritan, you know, discomforts. And I think women and men in this country haven't for very long been super comfortable or encouraged to explore those sides of themselves. And so I think we're evolving as humans. And I have a ways yet to go, ladies. I'm here to tell you. May I please keep learning?
Yay. Yeah, cheers to that. I wanted to add to like what you said about not having the answers and having more questions. I think I am with you there. And I think having these kinds of conversations and like that's how you make those personal breakthroughs. And then maybe somebody listening might have their own breakthrough. My question was basically like, when is your MDS or neurologist or your doctor in general, like my gynecologist doesn't even say like, hey, Jennifer, how's your sex life? Are things good? Are
Right.
things working as they should? Like usually it's just kind of like the preventative stuff. Like, okay, we're going to do this test. We're going to do this and that. And that, like,
Right.
that's it. But like, I feel like there's so much more that's going on. So
As a provider, Jennifer, so in my pre-Parkinson's life, I was a nurse midwife and I delivered babies for a living and I saw women for their annual exams. And as I grew in my tenure as a midwife, I talked a lot more about it. And part of what I realized is that it's not normalized as part of our health. And so women are embarrassed even about what we call our genitalia. I mean, I could send a whole list of what cutesy words that
Pretty
we use for
box.
things, right? Or down there, or oh, you're gonna look down there
exactly.
now, okay? And so I would give women the opportunity. Would you like a mirror? Can I help point out what the parts? And I can tell you, so many people are very, very uncomfortable with that because we haven't normalized it. Our bodily functions need to be talked about. We need to be seen as sexual beings. We know that MDSs aren't asking questions at all about hormonal cycles
No.
with women. And so but we can grow and we can learn. It also is up to us to bring it up. If we're uncomfortable what's happening in the bedroom, or feeling like there's a void, or we need to learn something, it's okay and safe to ask questions. And it's okay for providers to say, I don't know a lot about that, but let's talk about it together. Can I get back to you?
The shame, the stigma, the bothersome symptoms. I mean, if you're going to feel those things, the body will react in kind. So
Yeah.
you come through, like we talked about confidence. Let's say that I'm not confident in my body, and I'm very worried about how I appear to my partner or something like that. Like, does Parkinson's make us feel less attractive?
Yes.
Does it have to?
Mm.
What do you think?
I'm saying yes because I think it's a good question. What do you think, Jennifer?
The shame thing in our society, I think, is just so huge. And that goes back to Kat talking about just the puritanical roots. It's kind of heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking, but she's right. Like, I do think that these conversations are starting to kind of happen. There was this article in the New York Times titled, says, half the world has a clitoris. Why does nobody study it? And it was talking about just like this woman, who had a surgery. And then this was really heartbreaking too. But like, she had a surgery and she couldn't orgasm anymore after the surgery. And then she was trying to solve the problem and couldn't find anybody. And at the end, it did have that hope that it is starting to change, and people are starting to look at it. But no, the shame and all of it is I think a very big problem, because and it's like, and if you feel shameful about it, how are you ever going to feel good?
Jennifer, I can't thank you enough for being so candid with us and having a discussion and being unfiltered, because that's kind of what we do here. And boy, I'd love to reserve the right to have another conversation with you sometime. And Heather, as always, it's great to see your beautiful face. And ladies, let's keep talking. Let's keep talking.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Parkinson's podcast Unfiltered with Heather Kennedy and Kat Hill. For more information about the Davis Phinney Foundation and to learn about educational offerings and community events for people affected by Parkinson's, please visit davisphinneyfoundation.org or dpf.org. This podcast includes information about Parkinson's and insights from our Parkinson's community. It is not intended as a substitute for treatment advice from your own medical providers.